I'm Max Keiser. Time now to turn to comedian, author, activist Russell Brand, who's out with a new documentary film about the financial crisis, The Emperor's New Clothes, directed by Michael Winterbottom. First, let's take a quick look at this clip.
You've got to have some bankers going to prison for criminal behaviour.
I'm looking for Fred Goodwin.
We're from reception, please.
Did you know about the 500 million in bonuses last year? Did you get some of that?
No, I'm not.
I'm starting to think that you're involved in some high-level financial skullduggery. If you've seen any of the men on this van, do not attempt to approach them. They're crafty.
Wow. Oh, fantastic. So, there you are, RBS, Royal Bank of Scotland. Tell us about that experience. They were not all that welcoming.
What I realise is a lot of the people that work in even RBS or Lloyds or HSBC, it's just ordinary people from comparable backgrounds to me that have got jobs in the city. It's only the very top tier of people, isn't it, Max, that are hugely benefiting from fraudulent activity. One of the things that really struck me, for example, when I was in RBS, was there's an atmosphere of guilt in there. You know, like where you sort of, it felt like catching someone dressing up in their wife's knickers. You know, you could tell people felt a bit like, oh, I'm not meant to be doing this. You know,
what's kind of weird in this economy is that it's set up in a way where folks who end up with huge student debts, for example, they need to get jobs or they can pay off those debts. And those jobs end up being in these institutions that made those debts to be. In other words, they're being funneled into these jobs that are being done at these banks. The people don't really want these jobs. They realize that they're working for kleptomaniacs and kleptocrats. But the way the economy is structured now, fundamentally, the UK economy seems to be built on some fundamental principles that in your book, Revolution, now out in paperback, very much 180 degrees opposite of those types of values. But now it's become institutionalized in this economy, in this country, those types of values. So the revolution, when you speak about it, where is the RBS sits on another institution, the Bank of England, which has been around for 300 years. It's been around for 300 years, this corruption, this attitude. Where is there the vulnerability? Where is the chink in the armor? How do you attack?
What I feel is that systematically institutions are created that exclude the opportunity to be a human, to behave naturally, organically with people, that greed and selfishness are the kind of fuels and energies of these institutions. I mean, increasingly what I think is individual direct action, collective direct action, cooperation, collectivization, and, you know, I do agree with your alternate currency model.
Alternate currency. Speaking of...
I mean, Max, how long can you talk without mentioning...
Here it is, the new Startcoin crypto scratch card, branded with the Trues, which is your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So this is a currency that could be the currency of the revolution. It's a crypto coin. This is quantitative easing for the people. We've given away thousands. We've given away 1 million of these coins at your True Era Cafe in Hoxton. Yes. We're going to be giving away another many, many thousands of these. It's quantitative easing for the people. You can spend it on the projects that you are endorsing and behind as part of this pushback. You had a huge success with the New Era estate. But people can cash it out for these things as well, the devil's currency.
Now, what exactly is that, Max? That's got an inherent, natural, innate value, hasn't it? It would be sacrilege to do anything.
Well, this actually has no intrinsic value.
That's £20 note. You could get 2 bags of smack with that. You could get a couple of rocks with that.
No, this is actually the basis of the corruption in this country, because for every £20 that are spent, the Bank of England creates maybe £1,000 fresh to give to their mates. You see, actually, this is quite dangerous. This is actually garbage. This is the root of the problem here in the UK. Is this fiat currency, this money that's just printed out of thin air, that's backed with a few images of the Queen and whatnot, and it's impoverishing. This is what creates the poverty in the UK. Is this garbage, this devil's currency, this pagan disgustingness. Now, this cryptocurrency is completely different.
Even though I think of myself as a very radical man, when you tear up Her Majesty the Queen, I do feel a pang. I've been very well conditioned and trained to see that as an act of terrible heresy.
But you talk about in the book Revolution how people are seduced by the delusion of consumption. That delusion is fed by this ultimate piece of delusion, this ultimate illusion of value, of intrinsic value. This has no value, Russell.
I completely agree with you. I entirely understand. And I suppose if essentially what we need are alternative systems and models, and alternative currency is an integral part of that. But and for me, a new psychological and spiritual model, a new approach to life. I'm very interested in setting up social enterprises such as our cafe that we've started and replicating that model more and more. Small, local, organic agricultural concerns, small businesses, practical, functional things where people can come together in the spirit of, in an entrepreneurial spirit, creatively and work together. Perhaps ultimately, hopefully using an alternative currency and completely negating and avoiding this system. The more I deal with bureaucracy, the more I deal with consumerism, the more I think that there's really very little that it can offer us.
Well, let's talk about with Rupert Murdoch for a second, because here's a guy who's been caught doing innumerable shady, dodgy dealings here in the UK and around the world. The Trues, your YouTube channel, effectively got rid of the Sun banner from an agency called Hoxton News up there on Hoxton Street. It was taken away, crowdfunded. We all crowdfunded it. We got rid of that banner completely. It's been rebranded as the Trues. So isn't that a step in the right direction? Like, Murdoch's a bad guy. If we wipe him off the high street, that's a step in the right direction. What happened when you did that? Didn't you get a call from them? Wasn't there some discussion about it? Talk a little about it.
We thought that it wasn't that big of a deal. All that we did was replace the Sun awning with a Trues awning. As you say, thank you, you helped us raise the money. But it was taken really seriously by the Sun. They made a lot of phone calls. Mo, the guy whose news agent it was, got a lot of heat. And the Sun really stepped up their antagonism towards me, like their sort of ongoing daily character assassination. And I think there's a real acknowledgement in conventional media and in conventional institutions that change is happening. I think there's a real fear. I think, in 5 years there won't be a Sun newspaper. I think a lot of these institutions are going to fall.
Well, a lot of people, the support was overwhelming, and what they want to do are wrap a van with the Trues and drive around the UK, drive around America. There's somebody who wants to wrap an 18-wheeler with the huge Trues logo. So the Sun has now been identified as a very negative influence on in the media landscape because they push their agenda of war. They push their agenda of the Bank of England and Osborne, and folks are now ready for the truth, as they say. That if the news were true, it would be the Trues. But this is actually what people are taking on board, and it's spreading really. It's becoming global.
I think they're particularly toxic because of their claim to be representative of ordinary people, because of their jocular nomenclature that this is the language of the working people. But the people that are penalised most, the people that suffer most because of the mentality propagated by the Sun, are ordinary working people of this country.
Now, the other thing we're kind of contemplating here, I'm going to get your thoughts on it, because when you talk about sustainable culture and sustainable communities, of course, the first thing you think about would be, let's say, some agricultural project, grow your own food, and get some on sustainable course. That way, get away from genetically modified food, get away from the overpricing, the price gouging, the junk that's served up on the high street. But I think also includes kind of a digital revolution. So one of the ideas we're kind of kicking around here is this idea that to create a digital revolution to go with the spiritual revolution, get some laptops out there, get 1,000 laptops to the community in Hackney and Hoxton. Do you see that as a part of what is the overall revolution on the digital sphere?
I suppose equipping people with the machinery and knowledge to exist and flourish in a digital world is obviously hugely beneficial. I watched that Internet's Own Boy about Aaron Swartz and how hard American institutions came down on him, partly, I think, in acknowledgement of the huge power that people that can master the cyber world can wield over conventional institutions. So, yeah, I wouldn't mind a sort of an army of highly articulate and brilliant cyber guerrillas.
Right. So Aaron Swartz was a free speech guerrilla, and he came up with a lot of new technologies, very much about the public space. And according to his dad, the MPAA, Motion Picture Association of America hounded him to death. Okay,
Yeah.
Kim.com in New Zealand, another example, a guy who was basically exercising a constitutional free right to view information, and the MPAA organized a SWAT team to invade his home in New Zealand and arrest him. And now they want to deport him. And this is overreach by far by the Motion Picture Association to protect copyright.
Increasingly, what I think is we've become so detached from our essential nature in the pursuit of these erroneous and illusory objectives that people don't know what it is to be a human anymore. When you have institutions hounding young people to death simply because they want to share information, it makes me question what kind of society is this now? What does it mean?
So the film that you are now starring in, Michael Winterbottom, is a proper director.
He's proper. He's the real deal, Michael, Max. Like, well, look, Michael, I think he's more moderate than I am. He's perhaps more reformist than I am. But what this film does very well, and as the name suggests, Emperor's New Clothes, is it demonstrates what that swindle was that took place in the city there behind us and on Wall Street in a way that ordinary people that are educated to the standard that I have been will recognise and understand. For ordinary people of Britain, America, and Europe to see delineated clearly what happened. It tells that story and how directly that crash in 2000 and 2008 led to austerity measures, how ordinary people and the most vulnerable people have been forced to pay for a swindle that took place in the financial industry. It was this wicked bit in it. One of my favourite bits, Max, was it goes that like a cleaner at Goldman Sachs would have to work for 300 years to earn as much as their boss, 300 years. And it's a lovely sequence where it talks through they'd have to begin before the Napoleonic Wars, work all the way through these things. And it's like, I suppose that's where Michael's a brilliant filmmaker who conveys information in a way.
This proper filmmaker. Visually, he says, what does 300 years look like? And you see it on the screen.
Because I suppose the whole challenge of the world that you work in, and as an expert in the financial world, is that people don't think normally in numbers. People don't understand it. For me, it feels like this sort of glacial, sort of binary, like iceberg floating towards me, and I can't begin to break it down. What this film does, it makes me angry, because it explains to you in language you can understand what happened.
Yeah, well, it's an excellent beginning on a journey toward pushing back against the private space and the privatized space, which includes not the obvious privatized space of NHS privatization, but it also includes the corruption of the banking industry. And hopefully with cryptocurrency, crowdfunding, these types of things, we can expand the public space and in so doing, push back that private space. That's kind of the idea. Don't change it necessarily, but make the public space overwhelmingly large and push it out of the way.
I recognise the fragility and vulnerability of these institutions from their overreaction when we do anything as simple as replacing an awning on a newsagent. You can feel that it spreads this kind of, you feel the flicker of terror. You think, oh my God.
The flicker of terror! That's what we want! We're coming for you, Murdoch! The terror flickers are only going to get worse! All right, well, Russell Brand, thanks so much for being on the Keiser Report.
Thanks, Max.
That's going to do it for this edition of the Keiser Report with me, Max Keiser, and Stacey Herbert. I'd like to thank our guest, Russell Brand. His new film is The Emperor's New Clothes, in cinemas, April 24th. Check it out. If you'd like to get in touch, tweet us at Keiser Report. Until next time, bye, y'all.